There is a specific kind of silence that fills a room right before your entire life gets torn apart. Sitting at my kitchen table, watching my father-in-law push a cold piece of paper toward me, I realized that 8 years of devotion meant absolutely nothing to these people. He looked at me with pure disdain, claiming I was powerless and broke, incapable of putting up a fight against his son. I simply smiled, agreed with him, and let him walk out thinking he had completely crushed my spirit. What he did not realize was that his arrogance was about to walk him right into a trap. My name is Chloe, and for nearly a decade, I believed that love meant making yourself small so someone else could shine. I married my ex-husband when his commercial logistics firm was barely surviving, pouring every ounce of my energy into building that business from the ground up. I handled the financial tracking, managed client relationships, and worked grueling hours behind the scenes without ever demanding my name on the official paperwork. I intentionally kept my personal history private, choosing to build an independent life rather than relying on my family reputation, which allowed my father-in-law to mistakenly assume I came from nothing. The betrayal hit without any warning on an ordinary afternoon when my husband stopped coming home altogether, leaving his father to handle the messy execution of our marriage. My father-in-law marched into my home, throwing down a legal document that demanded I relinquish every claim to our property, business, and shared accounts in exchange for insultingly small payout. He threatened to ruin me financially if I refused to sign, mocking my lack of resources and declaring that I was entirely alone. Looking him in the eye, I pretended to accept defeat, knowing the moment he drove away I would be making a call that would change everything. As soon as his car turned the corner, the numb quiet in my chest transformed into a sharp, focused anger. I picked up my phone and dialed my brother, a high-ranking military prosecutor who spent his career dismantling massive corporate operations and financial crimes. Hearing his voice brought an immediate sense of clarity, and within minutes of explaining how my husband and his father had forged my signatures to strip my corporate assets, his demeanor shifted into full prosecution mode. My brother urged me to pack my things, step away quietly, and allow his forensic legal team to dissect every single document associated with the family empire. For the next few weeks, I played the part of a broken, helpless victim living in a modest rented apartment while ignoring passive-aggressive messages from my ex-husband. Behind the scenes, my brother and his investigators uncovered a massive paper trail of deliberate fraud, proving that my father-in-law had illegally funneled millions into undisclosed offshore accounts to hide them from the marital estate. Furthermore, the documents stripping my corporate ownership contained a glaringly obvious forged signature created while I was away caring for a sick relative. They had grown so confident in their ability to intimidate me that they never anticipated anyone actually auditing their records. While my legal team carefully gathered evidence, my ex-husband and his father were already celebrating their perceived victory in public. Word reached me through mutual acquaintances that they were hosting lavish dinners, boasting about how easily they had discarded me without paying a single dollar in support. My ex-husband was already stepping out with a new partner from a prominent business family, entirely convinced that our upcoming court date was a mere formality to finalize my surrender. They genuinely believed they had cornered a defenseless target, blissfully unaware that every fraudulent transaction was being prepared for a courtroom reckoning. The morning of the final court hearing arrived with a cold, sharp atmosphere that matched the tension inside the building. Sitting alone at the plaintiff table in my simple outfit, I watched my father-in-law and ex-husband strut into the room alongside an expensive defense attorney who looked supremely confident. My father-in-law leaned across the gallery to whisper one final taunt, offering me a last chance to take his insulting settlement before leaving with nothing. I remained silent, resting my hands flat on the wooden table as the judge called our case to order. Just as the proceedings began, the heavy courtroom doors swung open with a powerful thud that made every person in the room turn around. My brother walked down the aisle in his sharp military uniform, accompanied by an elite team of corporate litigators and federal financial specialists carrying evidence drives. The defense attorney took one look at my brother, recognized his national reputation immediately, and dropped his pen as his face drained of all color. My brother stepped forward, presented his official appearance, and instantly transformed the entire atmosphere of the courtroom from a routine divorce hearing into a high-stakes criminal defense. I used my portion of the settlement to launch my own property firm, applying the operational skills I had mastered during those silent years of hard work. With my brother serving as a trusted advisor, my new venture flourished beyond anything my ex-husband had ever managed to achieve on his own. Arrogant people often assume that quiet strength is a vulnerability, mistaking patience for weakness when someone refuses to fight on their terms. But stepping back in silence is never a sign of defeat. It is simply the quiet preparation required to let true justice prevail. Stepping up to the podium, my brother immediately requested an emergency freeze on all personal and business assets belonging to both men, prompting their attorney to frantically object. My brother coldly clarified that this was no longer a simple division of assets, but an active investigation involving sworn affidavits of forgery and federal tax fraud. He presented clear digital evidence demonstrating millions of dollars in illegal offshore transfers designed to defraud both the court and my share of the marital estate. My father-in-law began shouting in anger, only for the judge to slam her gavel and threaten him with immediate contempt. The judge spent several silent minutes reviewing the overwhelming digital evidence on her monitor, her expression growing increasingly stern with every page. When she finally addressed the court, her ruling was immediate, severe, and completely devastating to the defense table. She ordered a complete freeze on every corporate account, awarded me 60% of the entire audited business valuation, along with the house, and directly referred the forged documents to the state prosecutor. My father-in-law slumped into his chair in total shock, while his attorney frantically warned him to keep quiet to avoid further criminal exposure. The fallout from that courtroom decision unfolded rapidly over the following months as state prosecutors launched a full investigation into their business dealings. To avoid severe prison time for multiple counts of fraud and tax evasion, my father-in-law was forced to liquidate his primary assets, effectively destroying the real estate empire he had spent decades building. Disgraced by public scandal and stripped of his capital, my ex-husband saw his company collapse into bankruptcy while his new partner promptly ended their relationship. He was ultimately forced to take an entry-level management job, completely humbled by the consequences of his own arrogance.